Hi, my name is Mike Montgomery, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build a sliding barn door using hardware from Industrial by Design on Modern Builds. To make the door, I started with 6 8-foot 1x8s, and I ran them all through the planer just to make sure they were as flat as I could get them. Then, I ran them through the table saw to knock off the rounded edges. And once I had one square side, I cut them to their final width that was 6.5 inches. Now, I didn't want my boards just to butt up against each other, so I decided to make something called a lap joint. And I was able to make it by just using multiple passes on my table saw and cutting halfway deep into my board. And once I ran it through the table saw a bunch of times, I used a chisel just to clean it all up. And once you do this on 2 separate boards, they should be able to slide together and stay flat. This really helps line everything up and keep things strong. The other benefit of using this lap joint is that if there is a gap anywhere in my glue up, there won't be any light that's able to show through because of the boards overlapping. And what these are called call boards. They're 2x4s wrapped in packing tape to where glue can't stick to them. They just help the panel stay as flat as possible. And once my glue up was dry, I used the belt sander to flatten and clean up the faces. Now that the panel was as flat as I was going to get it, I used a straight edge and a circular saw to trim the door to its final size. And now with the base of the door done, I could move on to drilling all of the holes for the metal straps. To find the placement for my holes, I marked each place 2 boards met, and then I marked inside of those 1.25 inches in each direction. That's where I drilled the holes. Also made sure and used a lot of oil to make sure that the cut was lubricated and it didn't ruin my bit. And with all my holes drilled, I took it to the metal chop saw and just trimmed it to their final length. You could also do this with a hand saw as well if you don't have one. To install my metal straps on the door, I used a big drywall T-square to make sure I installed it straight. And I measured it to where it was 12 inches from the top of the door. And once I had the piece on, I went ahead and unscrewed everything. That way I could do a quick sanding all the way up to 220 grit and put the stain on. I chose a stain called Special Walnut, and I think it came out great. I think I'm definitely going to be using it in the future. And with the stain dry, I could go back and reinstall my metal straps for the final time. And I feel like I should go ahead and mention that all the materials and supplies will be in my written article. There's a link in the description, so be sure and check that out if you plan on building this. Now, I knew I wanted to paint the steel on the door a flat black to match the hardware, but I knew that if I painted everything before I installed it on the door, that a lot of that paint would rub off. So I went ahead and painted it on the door and just masked everything else off. Worked great. Now, before I installed all my hardware from Industrial by Design, I needed to take the trim off of the door because it stuck off the wall too far. And I replaced that with a really thin piece of Luan that I painted white over it. Overall, I think it looks fine. Next, I found my stud and started installing all of my hardware. Now, I made a really in-depth installation video for this hardware. If you want to check it out, I'll put a link in the description if you plan on building this. But this is going to be a quick overview just to show that it's really simple to install this hardware and it's nothing to be too scared of. And once I had my bar all screwed in and I knew it was level, I moved to my door and installed this strap. And I'm using this spacer that I cut on the table saw to 1 13/16 inches. This is the exact space that the top of the door and the caster need to be separated. Then I could drill my holes and install the included bolts and hardware. Then I could move on to the other side, and using this speed square really made the installation quick and easy because I knew I had a straight edge to line up the strap against. Once the straps were all tight, I could then put my door on the rail. And then I could install my 2 stops on each end to keep the door from sliding too far. And with those on, I went to the floor and installed the floor guide. Now what this piece does is it makes sure that the door tracks right and doesn't hit the wall or come too far off of the wall. Now this floor guide rides inside of a groove on the bottom of the door, and I put that groove in with a 1/2 inch straight router bit using a trim router and a fence, making sure that it was an equal distance from the edge the whole time. Then I could just install my caps on the top of the door, which make it to where the door cannot come off of the rails. And after a quick touch-up paint, everything was done. Now I am super happy with the way this door came out. It came out better than I was expecting, and I really love that black hardware matched with the deep walnut stain. I'm especially happy with the hardware itself. It came out looking really nice, plus it's super sturdy and really quiet. So make sure and check out Industrial by Design's website. They've got a ton of other cool products like metal hairpin legs and other awesome table legs. If you're new to my channel, I want to say welcome, as well as please subscribe, because I put out a new project video every week and you'll definitely want to keep updated with those. Don't forget, if you liked this project, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, and if you have any questions, leave a comment because I try to get to all of those. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time on Modern Builds.